Your children are actually scared of you?
Oh, fuck off.
Delicious.
Let's bag this elephant. Let's bone this turkey.
Obviously, hugely looking forward to my father dying.
Right. Let the games begin.
Welcome to Theater and Stream, a film podcast. I am Matt and that is Chuck, and this is episode 11. Tonight, folks, we are here to talk about one thing and one thing only, Succession. As we record, we are less than 24 hours removed from the series finale, and the show that, before last night, many would have called one of the best shows of all time, but now it has people divided. Some call it a blunder worse than the Game of Thrones final episode. Some say the episode is a work of genius and series creator Jesse Armstrong is on the level of someone like David Chase. And some would just kind of shrug their shoulders and ask, is that it? We'll be giving our reactions to the finale along with some reminiscing about the series as a whole. But before we get started, we got a bit of an announcement to make, especially if you didn't see the last episode. Chuck, I'll let you do that.
Yeah, I kind of tagged at the end there some news about our release schedule over the next, few weeks, because I'm going to be getting married to my fiance and, life partner, Angie, and, soon to be the mother of my, child, and that, caused a bit of a disruption. But fortunately, we had this finale to watch, and because we're so, raw, you coming off of watching it, there's really no better time to talk about saying goodbye to characters and a work of art of the caliber as this, because there's no art better than one that is divisive. Anything that is universally and loved by every single person on the planet, it's probably not very good. It needs to have an edge to it. It needs to have something that disrupts people and causes conversation. Otherwise, what's the point? That's what made the golden age of TV so good. Yeah, all those shows were universally acclaimed, but we all could disagree about whether or not it was doing well. And I guess that brings us to this final season. This episode is probably going to be coming out a little earlier than our usual release date on Mondays. You'll I think, see it on Wednesday or Thursday this week. We're recording it on Monday. I'm getting married on Saturday. And the following week after that, I will be taking some time off, but Matt will be, going out and reviewing Into the Spiderverse. Is that what it's called? Or Across the Spiderverse?
Across the Spiderverse,
yeah. It was Into the first time. Now they're going over it. And possibly even Stephen King's The Boogeyman. But there's no boogeyman in this world, more terrifying than Logan Roy. And this show did something very scary for a lot of people. And that gut punch, we talked about it earlier, in our reviews of all of this. But killing off Logan Roy so unexpectedly, it made this season very, very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. Was its ending as sad, I guess on Front Street, was it satisfying for you personally?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I actually had that in my notes, that exact question, and I'd kind of be willing to bet that a person's thoughts on this finale would boil down to how much they value the journey versus the destination, and it's hard to critique the ending because I think it is appropriate. It's almost like when Logan died at the end of episode 3, or in episode 3, and we should have been able to call it. All the evidence was there in the preceding episodes, but you still kind of hope for something that upsets the status quo. And I think there are three things that make for a good TV finale. Number one, that it has a thematically appropriate ending that sort of gels with the rest of the show. It's a culmination of all the themes. Number two, that you're putting a cap on at least a majority of your running storylines. And then third, that the ending should be satisfying for the viewer in that they think that all of their time that was input into the show was worth something, or it was worth it. And that's kind of the part where I think the finale fails a bit, because while I think it's a culmination of the themes, I don't think it's not a culmination of the plot.
Not at all. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I can't help but have the feeling that many of the events of the show as a whole have been rendered pointless. And I don't know. But in the past, when new seasons of the show were announced, I would go back and watch the previous seasons, like literally every season. And I kind of feel as if any rewatchability for the show has been killed by the finale, because, how can you have an interest in rewatching all of those scenes, especially like the scenes between Logan and Kendall, knowing now that they lead to nothing, and that, people suck. And, that's like the theme of the show. But I don't know. I guess a show isn't entirely measured by its rewatchability. So in that respect, I can't be completely down on it, because again, as I said, I think it's completely thematically appropriate. And anybody who didn't see this coming and held out for that little bit of hope that, Kendall would win, I don't know. You shouldn't have had any hope in the first place.
Exactly. Because I remember saying, leading into this season, it's like, I just want the kids to win. But yeah, the point, if there is one, is that these people had no hope ever of living up to the monument that, is their dead father. Kendall says in this, episode at one point, like, I am a cog made for a specific machine. Let me do what I meant to do, or I might die. It's like he's so childish. And I know that goes without saying. The whole point of Kendall Roy is his arrested development, and his inability to actually live up to his own expectations, not even his father's. But what's made clear, from the funeral episode on, especially with like Ewan's eulogy, is that these kids are they're never going to have the struggle. They had silver spoons up their ass from the moment they popped out of their frigid old mom, and they're just neurotic, and they're just assholes. Like, they are shit. And that's even like what happens in that penultimate scene, pretty much, is Roman just being like, yeah, I was going along with you, motherfucker, but you care way too much. It's like, we are garbage people, and we don't deserve any of this. Even though they all walk away from this deal like cajillionaires. That's what's like lost in like all of the histrionics over like, oh, they're going to keep the company, the birthright, yada yada. It's like all of these people are going to be so obscenely wealthy that they're like, they can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, look at the older brother. He literally just wasted like hundreds of millions of dollars running for president when he had no chance of winning, but he could just do it. These people will be fine, but they will never, ever, ever be happy. And yeah, because that's ultimately the whole point, if there is one, I think. Yeah, not good for rewatchability. It's like a stage play in that way. You go to the theater, you watch it, and you're like, oh, well, that's crazy. But you're like, do you really go back the next day and just like go through the same experience again? No, but you appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why, I don't understand these people who are saying that it's like a unmitigated disaster, because I think it's definitely very worthwhile still. And I guess to get right into it, you had kind of said, what is the ultimate point of the show? And if you had to say, well, I mean, what would you say that is? Like, what is the theme? What is the overriding theme? What is Jesse Armstrong saying? And I guess what I would say is, kind of going along with what Roman is saying there in the end, when he's like, none of this matters. This is all, we're cartoon characters, whatever. And it's almost as if like, yes, really, none of it does matter, because, what do you do in a world where one phone call or one conversation can like topple a like billion-dollar corporation, and you have no control over that at all, because that's all it ever took in the show for something to happen, for deals to get made or broken. And so I don't know, I guess that's kind of what my big takeaway was.
Yeah, because they spend all that time, feeding into the histrionics of the neoliberals who watch Max and watch HBO content. Yeah, like with all like the election episode and like, oh, like this is what happens, this is what's imperiled and what's at stake. But I find that a little disingenuous when you get down to it and you look at the real world events that they were trying to mirror here. Like, they were effectively making the case that like Fox News in the real world, like what if in 2020, what if they had declared Trump the winner of one of those contested states? To the credit of Fox News, they never did that. And yeah, they've got their comeuppance for playing patty cake with his conspiracy theories. But in the world of like this, all of the grievances that the neoliberals are having within the universe of the story are all things that Trumpers were saying. In the real world, like, oh, they attacked that ballot center, they burned it down, they're shredding the votes, everything's being stolen. And when you boil it all down, like what are you really critiquing here if you're gonna build up all those histrionics, and then at the end you just kind of be like, oh yeah, these people really have no power. It all can just be taken away from them at the snap of a finger. So like, who's really in control here? Is it these kooky individuals that we've come to know and love and, kind of resent their real world, like familiars? I don't like what's really happening here is something else. And we are just being pushed towards, I'm just getting jumbled here. I'm fucking up the point I was going to make. Because it just like my mind is mush from the day I've had and from staying up and watching this show. But if there's a fucking point to this, I think like it's kind of undermined. Because he lures his audience into like feeding into their worst fears about the real world, and then he just makes it clear that actually the machine, capitalism, is the beast here. That's the beast. It's capitalism more than anything. It's a critique of that, and then all of the fun rich people shit you can explore like in fiction. All of the fancy clothes, like the sweaters that cost $10,000 that are just casually worn in a single scene and then never seen again, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess to speak a little bit on like the actual events of the finale, what stands out to you from this final episode as far as I guess the thing that's getting the most sort of coverage right now in post finale is sort of Shiv's final choice. And so like, what do you make of all that?
Oh god, Shiv, like the finale. I'll just say this in general, because as I was watching it, I was comparing it to other finales I had seen, and other finales like Mad Men or like even Breaking Bad, there's a lot of thrust happening there. And it's very precise and well executed. Not that this is, but this last episode is such a shambolic mess. Like everything goes like the status quo shifts from scene to scene. Literally, It's like everyone's alignment is just in flux in this last episode. But it was just so brave how they didn't get like too bogged down in reflection. It's just being trapped in the moment with these people, and with Shiv's decision. I don't know. I hated it in the moment. I was like, you bitch. Why are you doing this? But it's all about herself. Since she couldn't be the CEO of the U.S. part of Stargo, she'd be willing to settle to be the power behind the throne on both sides. Because, Mattson, elevated her, estranged husband, basically with the understanding that he'd be fucking her on the side. And they're in the car holding hands at the end because that's the twisted partnership that she has fallen into. It's like no one's gonna elevate her to the chair. Her daddy never picked her, and then her new daddy, Mattson, was not gonna pick her. He was just using her too. So what's left for her? So I understand to a degree the calculus that she arrived at that. It just was excruciating that she did that. Like, it was such a knife in the stomach. Like, Stewie pulled through. Like, they had all of everything they needed, and then someone in the family fucked it all up. And that was probably meant to be. It was always going to happen that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I see a lot of people like just like the worst takes ever about like people saying like Shiv made the decision she made because she was worried about the future of the company and her dad's legacy, and it's like no.
She cared the least about those things.
Yeah. And if that was her excuse, that was the thing she told Ken to his face, this is why I'm doing this, but that's not how she really felt. And it's just a question of losing all of her power versus clinging on to the most minute bit of that power. And she chose the minute bit of power that she would get by being to being in a loveless marriage with the CEO of the company, basically having kids that she probably will suck at taking care of, just like her mother before her. And so yeah, she's she's awful. If there's a villain of the show, it's definitely her.
You talking about Shiv or the mom?
Shiv.
Okay, Shiv.
Yeah.
Because she was the ultimate foil. It's like, I'm gonna have to go back and I will rewatch this show just because I want to appreciate the Shakespearean depths, that it plumbs, throughout it. Because like things were getting like a little, what's the word here? Like, they even invoke it, like Lady Macbeth. Like Shiv herself brings it up. It's like, hey, maybe not go that way because it's a little Lady Macbeth. Image. We got to be careful about the PR.
Yeah, and then I guess is there any other specific scenes from the finale you wanted to bring up? I know there was one other one, of course. Yeah. We should probably talk about the final scene, but before that, anything else that stood out to you? I
really liked the whole thing in the kitchen where they crown the king, and they're like it was such a sweet little moment. It makes you remember, oh yeah, these are people who grew up together. And this is like some genuine sibling razzing and rizzing that's going on. And of course it was all bullshit. But I loved like the dance, that whole sequence where like they start at the house and they're all talking together. And then they go down to the water and one splits off and they have their side conversations. And it's all setting up those final decisions. And it works really, really well as a juxtaposition to the actual vote scene and the confrontation that happens, in their like second boardroom later when they're at each other's throats and like Kendall's lying about not killing the guy. Like that was one of like that like made me bust out laughing because I was just like, holy shit, dude, you have lost it. You have lost it, and you're like not actually solving your problems here. You're convincing nobody. But like what else? I guess what else stood out to you?
Well, I gotta call out that scene between Tom and Mattson at dinner because, oh my god, it's another like excruciating scene because you can see everything running. You can see the terror and like the anger behind Tom's eyes, but his face is saying yes, like yes sir, the entire time. And like, what is the expression that Mattson uses? I don't need a partner. I need somebody to be my pain sponge, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
To soak up, like everything for me. And yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess like it's funny that, ultimately Tom, if there is like a winner, it's Tom or Greg even. They come out as the winners of this show. And I mean, it's them. If you really think about it, the winners of Succession are the spouses of the siblings or the spouses of people. So you have like Marcia. Yeah, Willa gets to, fuck off to Eastern Europe with her billionaire husband who pays for her shitty art. And then you have Marcia who also fucks off back to Europe with her giant payout that she probably got after Logan died. And then you have Tom, who becomes the CEO of the company, the thing that he's always wanted. And so if there's any winner to Succession, it's the spouses.
And Greg, too, because he's always trying to figure out, well, who am I, like, whose side am I really on here? Like what is my best interest? Like what's the choice for me? And he even second guesses it because he doesn't quite know if Tom's going to be able to swing having him, keep his job when the deep cuts come. So yeah, he caves a little bit, but in the end it doesn't matter because Tom needs his court eunuch. He needs, his like secret little toady that is like, like his dog, kind of like what that one guy, the creep, the skeezy dude, I can't remember his name. He's one of the PR flacks.
Oh, Hugo?
Hugo. Yeah, it's he like when Hugo's like, woof woof, I'll be your dog, Kendall. Like that's basically what Greg is for for Tom. Because if Tom's the new Logan, then Greg is the new Hugo, because Hugo's out the door and gone, presumably based on how Tom walked in there, because he was like, "Where's Carolina? I don't want to talk to you, Hugo. Where's Carolina?"
He's gonna fire him.
Yeah, and what's funny is that actor, I forget that dude's name. He's in Super Mario Brothers. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is his name? But he has a plan to pitch a spinoff for Hugo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I hope it happens. It'd be really fun. But I guess I want to bring this up because was it masterful to leave everything so unsettled and basically make this series finale feel like a season finale? Is it richer for having so many dangling threads and so many questions about the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a pretty good job of wrapping, most things up, or letting you wrapping up enough that you can infer what happens after the final credits roll. And the one thing though is there's still that bit of me that would have loved to see. I'm speaking now about the final scene, okay, and there's still there's that bit. That tiny part of me that would have wanted just that one final thing that would have, put more of like a satisfactory note on the ending, I guess I would call it. And what I mean by that is, just have Kendall smile or something. And while he's sitting on the bench, instead of just stewing there in his misery, or, even I was thinking about this earlier today, what if he's sitting there on the bench at the very end, he's miserable, but then he picks up his cell phone, and he starts dialing a number, and then he puts the phone up to his ear, and then it cuts out.
Yeah.
So you get the sense that he has a plan. He still has a plan, or he still has, a little bit of fight left in him or something. But, it's weird that he chose to end it on that scene, because that final scene seems almost pointless to me, because the last time that we see Kendall before that is when he kind of sulks out of the office in the elevator, and nothing changes between that scene and the final scene. It's just that final scene is an extension of the elevator scene. There's nothing else that we gain as a viewer from seeing that final scene. So I guess I don't get it.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't give you any hope that that Kendall, this pseudo protagonist for this show, was gonna get a chance to grow and be beyond all of his trauma. He's just awash in it. His kids are afraid for their lives. His ex-wife wants nothing to do with him. She blames him.
His kids that aren't even his.
I forgot about that detail. Is that right? They're all just he just got cheated on, basically?
I don't think it was out in the open, but it's one of those things that everybody knows. I think that's kind of how it was talked about within the confines of the show. Okay. Because, obviously he was absolutely pissed at Roman for bringing it up. So yeah. I think it's just something everybody knew, because his kids don't look anything like him.
Ah, yeah. They're a little dark skinned. Mm-hmm. That is true. Fuck. Jesus. That guy, that dude, why did Jesse Armstrong hate Kendall Roy so much? Why did Kendall need to suffer so much?
Yeah, I don't know, because that's an argument that people have long held, that he absolutely hates his characters. That some people say that there have been entire articles written about that premise. And I guess one thing that I wanted to kind of get out in the open that I think this is probably a good time to bring it up is this quote that Jesse Armstrong gave that pretty much sums up the entire show. And this quote just comes from one of those random behind the scenes videos that plays at the end of some of the episodes. Like at the end of every Succession episode, they play like that behind the scenes featurette for about 3 or 4 minutes. And this just comes from one of those. And this is what he said. He said, "Some people would see growth. I'm on the fence about human beings, and people certainly change what they do. But in my view, people's essential selves don't change. In a way, that's what makes drama and choices interesting."
And I think he held true to that based on how everyone ended up going in the finale. Everyone just defaulted back to their basic programming. No one transcended. Nobody grew. Like, in fact, they went even harder into those grooves that they've worn into themselves. Like when Logan's literally not Logan, when Kendall's like yelling, "I'm the eldest boy, I'm the eldest boy." You're just like, oh Jesus Christ, like make it stop, But
yeah,
like they went all out with that, and I understand why some people are really, really like alienated by it, and yeah, like it's gonna be kind of an enigma. It's not the definite, like it's not in the hall by default, like we kind of assumed it would be at the end, because it's not unanimous. It's gonna have to earn its place with some time, and it's funny because this is probably my favorite show to come out of the quote unquote Trump era, and to actually talk about what was going on in the country, with any nuance, as much as I called it disingenuous a little bit ago, but that's something that I feel like we kind of took it for granted, and I think some people were a little too surface level in their analysis of that stuff, because we're not just like what does the show isn't about these famous rich people. It's about America in general, like what does this show say about you? Consider that. Maybe I'm a little too holistic with how in my approach, but what is the future of these characters? Like, if you could if you would write a fan fiction season 5 or like a Succession movie to just kind of really give us the ending, the outright like crowd pleasing fan service ending that we didn't get, what would you have it do?
Yeah, well, I mean, realistically, I think what would be in store for these characters is basically Kendall is going to try and fight his way back in, or fight his way into a different company, try and start a different startup, something like that. Roman is out. He is just out. He's done. I think he's going to take the money and run. Shiv, as we said earlier, is basically going to pop out a couple kids and be sort of a trophy wife that makes decisions behind the scenes. And then, like, I honestly think Tom and Mattson, because you have to take them as, because you have Mattson now the owner of the company and Tom as a CEO, you got to take them as a duo now. And I think they're just going to run the company in the ground, where neither one of them has any vision. And they're going to turn ATN into like HuffPost, Gawker, like BuzzFeed, something or other, and just run it into the ground. And so I don't think, ATN will be around for at most a couple more years probably, and then they'll sell it for parts. And then, let's see, anyone I'm forgetting. And then Greg will just kind of be strung along for that. So that's kind of where...
That's too bad. But what about our boy Connor? Like, that's the question. Do you think, like, Mencken actually wins? And then,
I wish they never said that. I just realized that.
Yeah, because like they even put that into Willa's head, like, hey, Mencken could lose, and then you're just gonna have to be stuck here with this husband that you don't love, and all of his money.
Gosh, that's a good question. Because I mean, if he does win, then I guess Connor gets to go off to what country was it again?
It was like Slovenia, I think.
Yeah, Slovenia. Yeah. And so, yeah, he's gonna be fine either way though, because Connor's, he's always just kind of rolled with the punches, and he's such a joke. But at the very least, he's happy being a joke, or doesn't care.
He is
so.
the only happy person in this family. It's really
Yeah.
amazing. God. But I don't know, my thought about, I guess now that I've like listened to you talk a little bit, it's like, yeah, it's obvious why the show ended here. Because it's like it deliberately ends in a way where it's not very interesting where anybody goes. Like a season 5, if they had done it, probably would have sucked. And then everyone would have hated the show and would have never wanted to come back to it. Like, they did the right thing by not giving us the unsatisfaction. Like, do you know The Princess Bride, the book that it's based on? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, no.
There's a reason for this. Like, it was written by William Goldman, Goldman, right? Or is it Golding?
I wouldn't know.
famous screenwriter. But he wrote it as like a meta novel where it was like him telling stories to his son, from this book that his father read to him. But as he's reading it, what he realizes is, oh, my dad was editing it and giving me like a more palatable version of the story and didn't give the real ending. Because if you read the book, The Princess Bride, the real ending of the story is Prince Humperdinck catches up to them, kills Wesley and Fezzik, and then takes, Buttercup home, and that's the actual ending of the story. And basically, Jesse Armstrong is doing that same thing for us. He's sparing us from the bad ending of the story.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really have anything else about the finale itself, I don't believe. Other than I guess I do want to real quick just shout out that I love that they shout out Lawrence Yee at the end when they're talking about possible CEOs, because that's the guy from season 1, the Asian guy who was like the CEO of what was it called, Valter.
Yeah, it was some bullshit, like platform or whatever. I don't even really remember.
Yeah,
I remember the actor.
That was good.
Yeah, but that's the kind of detail they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you want to transition into season 4 as a whole, like the whole season? What did you think of it as a whole, and I guess more explicitly, what did you make of killing Logan Roy off in episode 3 at this point? Like, is it, in hindsight, was it the best decision, or maybe not?
Maybe not. They could have told a totally different story had they kept him alive throughout the whole thing, or just killed him later in it. It was a very deliberate choice, and it's a very radical thing to do. So like, I'm always going to kind of give them their flowers for doing something I didn't expect and doing it well. But a part of me is kind of feeling like they could have told a more interesting story had they kept him alive, and there could have been something more there. But I think it's more in line with the spirit of the show to have him die. I understand why they did that. It might have been the more correct choice, but he didn't do enough with the setup he gave himself. I really want to rate the season highly. I was so caught up in it. Every episode was just a mile a minute and was just giving you so much. Like, it seems weird to say because it's like he did a lot, but I feel like there was more heights to be reached than where it ultimately wound up. Like, I'm pissed when something is like it's a wet fart on purpose, but I kind of get it. I mean, it's like things need to be unsatisfying sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, season 4 as a whole, to me, it has some of the best episodes of the series and some of the worst, where, of course you have...
What's the worst?
I think one of the worst episodes of the entire show is Living Plus, which I think is 6. Yeah. The conference, the investor conference, that episode felt very off to me. Like, in its feel, its direction, the stuff that happened during it wasn't very consequential.
And it didn't make sense. Like, nothing that Kendall did on that stage would have made me feel comfortable having my money with his company.
Yeah.
But then, like, takeaway from it is, Kendall killed it. And I was like, he did? Like, are you just saying that?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's... I don't know, that one was definitely wasn't one of my favorites. But then, the show has some of the better episodes, like, and to speak more about the original question of, Logan's death. If Logan hadn't have died, we wouldn't have ever gotten that amazing episode, episode 3. And so, one of the best episodes of the entire show. And then also another one of the great episodes of the show, I think, is the one where they go to Norway. I thought that was, all incredible, that stuff. I just loved everything about that, like the culture shock and like the Americans and like the Norwegians mingling, and then up at the top of this fucking like millionaire ski lift, they're just having their like powwow session up there and just digging into each other. I loved that episode. But yeah, I think this is the most hit or miss season, I think. And because of that, I would say, I think 2 is the best. Season 2 is, I will just come out and say, season 2 is my favorite overall, and it has the best ending.
Yes, that's true.
That I cannot get over, like, the high that show ended on when season 2 ended. That ending where, Kendall finally mans up, and you just get that little smirk from Logan. That was such a high to end that season on, and people were so elated at that point, and it was incredible. But yeah, it's nothing like this season. They're different animals.
It's very true. And I wonder why, because like the show, I don't know. These latter seasons have like a weird awkwardness to them, like even in like the writing and then the way that some of the lines are delivered. I don't understand it, because like everyone just kind of seemed more like actual people in the first 2 seasons, and then the back end they just seemed like they're so stunted, and maybe that was deliberate, because like they were all just like shedding so much of themselves over the courses of the stories. But as far as quality goes, that the way that 3rd season ended was really fucking disappointing. Like, and that one is my least favorite, and like 1 is above it, and it's a battle between 2 and 4 for me right now. Even as hit or miss as it is, the highs of 4 are just so incredible. But ultimately I think you're right. Season 2 is the superior one. It's the one where the show was like in its like element. It was like it was just fully at the height of its powers. And then they were just running. It was kind of like the back end of Mad Men too, because like there was a lot of wiffle waffling happening there, in those last few years of that show as well. And we kind of got a condensed version of that with this truncated show in comparison.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think, just to do a little bit of theorizing here, when it comes award time, the Emmys, the Globes, who's going to get the nominations for this season?
It's hard. Because Logan Roy's barely in it. He gets to, but I think he's still pursuing a nomination, I believe. But goddamn, I think it's, you got to give, Culkin some love here. Like, has he been nominated and won yet? I can't recall.
I don't think so. No, he might have got a nomination last season, but he hasn't won.
Yeah, like he deserves it, I would say. And then Snook too. You got to give them, and even fucking Skarsgård. Holy shit! Like Madsen was just such a menace. But they're just so stacked. Even Matthew McFadden. You'll probably just like he has been like quietly like everyone's favorite character, like the dynamic between him and Greg, because their stakes were less and they could have more fun, even though they gets pretty dark with them too.
Yeah, when they're like having that slap fight in the bathroom of the penthouse.
That was great.
Yeah. He, I'm glad you shouted out Matthew McFadden, because he was so incredible this season. I mean, he's always been good, but once they started relying less on Tom for comic relief and actually, evolved him into an actual character, his work has been so good. And so, yeah, what my answers to that question were going to be were him, if you're going off this season alone, the problem with, the Emmy Awards and the Globes is that when a season gets to its final show or final season, when a show gets to its final season, they tend to give nominations based off the entire run of the show because the show's over.
Yeah.
And so, in that respect, I could see, Brian Cox getting nominated solely because he was in those first 3 seasons and they just want to give him an award as sort of almost like a lifetime achievement type thing for the other seasons of the show. But if we're talking just this season, definitely Matthew McFadden, Kieran Culkin, and then, and then Snook, because I think she's probably, she doesn't even have to go up against all these men because she's obviously in, the actress category. So yeah. I think she'll for sure get a nomination. And it's not that she doesn't deserve it, but I'm just saying she's for sure going to get one.
Yeah. Her path is easier.
Yeah. And then behind the camera too, Armstrong's going to get a writing nom for sure. Mark Mylod will get a directing nom.
God, and depending on what comes out at the back end of the year, if Connor's Wedding doesn't just clean up, like something's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we will see though. I think I should have looked it up before we started, but I think the Emmys are next up. I believe the Emmys are in like July. I want to say like late July. So
and they won't be televised. So we'll find out. I guess just through like Deadline Hollywood or something.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess let's talk about the show as a whole now. We already kind of gave our best seasons, but standout episodes, favorite episodes of the show. What would you say?
I think I need to rewatch it just so I can refresh my memory on those first 2 seasons a little bit more. But Kendall's birthday party is just such a shredding episode. It makes me feel so good in a bad way. The season 2 finale that you brought up, that was a high point that it was pretty undeniable. I'm trying to and the wedding episodes from the Shiv's wedding. That was a really good one too.
Mm-hmm. I liked Hunting is the title of the episode. It's the boar on the floor episode.
See, that's what I mean. Like, I don't remember where these moments happen. But that one, fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And then, I think the season 2 finale the title is not, This Is Not for Tears. And that would, be one of mine too, of course. And then whatever episode, I don't know, I can't remember which one it is, but whatever episode Ken raps in.
Yes, the L to the OG. That's like a legendary moment from this show. It will be remembered mostly for that, I think, L to the OG, because the memers are all about that. But you brought up the title to the finale, because like of that season, and like all the episode finales seasons are taken from a poem by a poet named John Barrowman, who's from your neck of the woods, from what I understand.
I didn't know that.
He jumped off of one of the bridges in Minneapolis and killed himself. But before he did that, he wrote this poem that you've included in here. And it's like, with open eyes, all the bells say, this is not for tears, and no one is ever missing, are the parts that have been plucked from this poem called Dream Song 29. Like, what do you know about all that?
Yeah, the poem itself it's about a man haunted by the face of his dead father, and it's about it's about the man, his name's Henry in the poem, and it's about how he can never get over his grief, essentially. That's what it boils down to. And so, I mean, it's obviously talking about Kendall, and so it fits in very well with the final episode.
If people had been more astute, if you were an individual who could have been like, they're talking about this poem, you probably could have seen, like, you would have known the ending before it happened, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's really not open to interpretation. So yeah, all you had to really do was look at the titles of the episodes to know what it was referencing.
And it goes in reverse. Like the last line of the poem is used in the first season, right?
Let's see. Nobody Is Ever Missing?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
And then the second one, This Is Not for Tears. Third one,
Yep.
All the Bells Say. Fourth one, With Open Eyes.
Okay.
That's interesting.
That's right. Yeah. Every single every single line is
in reverse
from that poem.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And it's in
I guess I
reverse,
never put those two things together, but yeah, that is good. That's a good observation. But yeah, so it really isn't open to interpretation. So people probably could have looked into that and known kind of how the show would end. But yeah, what do you I don't know, as we sort of get to the end of our conversation here, I want to know this. I want to know, does this show have a place in the pantheon of the all-time greatest shows? And just to give people a little bit of taste, what are some of the shows that you think belong in that pantheon?
Well, it's a joke to say it, but like, you got The Wire, you got the X-Files even, but like, as far as like modern day prestige TV, I don't like, there's a lot of shows that I don't go back to. Like, I don't go back to Mad Men. I don't go back to Breaking Bad. Maybe I should be going back to those kinds of shows. But yeah, like, you got to just think about like who, like, the shows that are evergreen are the ones that have the characters that people love and like don't want to say goodbye to. So yeah, Friends, even Seinfeld, you know, like even like those kinds of things. And this show has that. There's just not enough episodes, I think, you know, to like really, you know, like be that sort of thing that is going to be relevant no matter what era you're in. And maybe it will. Maybe I'm underselling it, but a part of me questions how, like, kind of like Game of Thrones. I think people are going to kind of be like, oh, that left a sour taste in my mouth, and not remember the good times, you know, quite so much. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how people feel when we don't have a new episode next week or a new season to look forward to. Will people just go back and rewatch this show, like knowing where it's going? Maybe not. Maybe not as much.
Yeah, I just to give people kind of a little view of my tastes, if I were to create sort of like a show, television show Mount Rushmore, would probably be True Detective season 1, Mad Men, Deadwood, Twilight Zone, and yeah, I mean that would probably be, those are probably my favorites of all time. And so, you know, that said, I think this will probably land for me in like the back half of that, where, you know, if I were to write down my 10 favorite shows, this will probably end up being somewhere in like number 8 or number 9 or number 10 or whatever, you know, because but I do think time is going to be good to this show. I do think that people will soften on it as time goes on, and you know, at least be more open to its ending.
Because,
you know, even if they don't like it, you know, even if they don't necessarily like it, they're going to be open to it. They're going to be, you know, open to the interpretations of it. They're going to be open to, you know, it's unfair to go into a finale, you know, thinking in your mind like, okay, this is what I want to happen, and if it doesn't, I'm going to fucking hate this show. Like, that's just bad. You know, that's just not good form, I guess. And so I do think that time will be good to this show.
Yeah, because it's gonna be benefited by comparison to every show, like I kind of mentioned, that we don't really go back to, or that fumbled the whole situation so badly that it ruined the entire experience, not just the ending of it. They dodged the shark so completely, in my opinion, by, you know, ending it and then ending it the way that they did. That is the thing that will secure it a place in, if not in the top 10 of all time, it's in the next 10. It's worthy of the conversation, no matter what the conversation is. Because this was pretty ballsy television, and it always was giving you everything that it could, and like until the end, when it leaves you with some feelings like, well, what if they made some different creative choices? But if you respect the ones that they did give you, like you say, in good form, it's still probably going to stand the test of time as something pretty impressive. Like the acting and the writing here was just so top notch all the way up until the end that it's going to be hard to go back to watching shit like Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, well, here, I didn't put this on the doc, but let me ask you this now. Is the golden age of television over? Does Succession ending mark the end of like the golden age? Because that's always something that that's an idea that people always bandied about when they talked about this show, especially in the earlier seasons, was that, Succession is the last vestige of the golden age of television. And, what are we going to do when it's gone, and yada, yada, yada. So what do you think about that idea?
Well, I think that's something that is just kind of said as all eras transition. Because I remember people saying that the golden age of TV was over when, like, Mad Men and Breaking Bad were over, But I think we've seen in recent years that there's some creative juice yet still, in Hollywood to make some pretty superlative television. This was an example of it, but then we also have new shit. We have Severance, which hasn't let us down yet. We gushed a lot about Yellow Jackets, but that still has promise within it, even if the second season was kind of meh. I feel like for the most part I'm in good hands, because the trash TV is still trash, but there's still enough quality out there for me to feel like, oh no, like the good years are still to come. Like there's still somewhere amazing that we can go that we don't expect, or aren't like we haven't been subverted out our asshole enough not to want,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just kind of a matter of perspective, and I think a lot of people, as people get older too, they like to think about what they would consider the good old days, but in reality, they never left, and things are always mostly the same always, and so. But yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely shows that are still out there that could sort of take the mantle, like, like you had said, Severance, and some shows coming up this year. Like there's that one that almost looks like I struggle to remember the name now, but we talked about it in our 2023 look ahead episode that we did earlier this year. It was the basically the British Succession with Kate Winslet in it, where she plays Like I think that looks like it could be amazing, but yeah, we'll just have to see.
And not only that, what if True Detective Night Country is just fucking great? What if it's as good as season 1, and suddenly True Detective is prestige TV that everyone has to watch again? Is the golden age back until that show fumbles the ball? Like I don't know, like things can still happen. And we still got wacky people. Like I am over the moon over weirdos, like the guy that did Brand New Cherry Flavor. I want more from that dude, wherever he's at these days. Because there is some gonzo stuff out there. We could get we have Squid Game. Like, is Squid Game not a part of this new golden age? I don't know. I think we just need to appreciate what we have. But what are we gonna get from Mr. Jesse Armstrong next?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to make a note of this. If and when the writer's strike ends, we will be getting a comedy from Jesse Armstrong called Jaunty, and that's spelled Jonty. And this is a comedy film starring Michael Cera that is directed by Tim and Eric Wareheim, that is co-written by Armstrong and a guy named Sam Bain, who he worked with on Peep Show.
Rad. Okay. Jesus. That's going to be pretty nuts. Because I've been seeing Eric Wareheim in commercials a lot lately. So it's going to be kind of a big deal for him if he can make something fancy with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever this, and then Peep Show. Like the first, I didn't realize I was enjoying Jesse Armstrong 10 years ago when I was streaming that, like, the Peep Show and a Mitchell Webb joint, or Look, that's what it was called. But that's cooking supposedly, but how likely is that, and how much do we really want that when he could be doing other things?
Well, it's the only reason I had included it is because the Peep Show movie is like long in development, and it still says in pre-production on his IMDb page, but I don't know. The longer we get removed from that show, I think the less chance there is that it comes out.
Well, we'll just have to see, because he gave us 4 pretty solid seasons of television. More than we can say about a lot of people out there. I'm looking at you, Peacock, and all the shit TV that I've watched on you lately. Like, remember the Ark? Do you remember The Resort? Do you remember all of these really weird shows that never really went anywhere? God, they're just trying to be bargain basement, like White Lotus and crap like that. But it'll be a dark day next Sunday night, when I have no more prestige TV to watch. And I have to watch White House Plumbers. That's gonna make me really sad, because that show is not as good as that first episode made me feel it was.
Well, here's what you should do. In all actuality, is go back and do watch that second season of White Lotus.
Okay, that's an idea.
Because it is incredible. Yeah,
and I did start it. I think I got like 2 episodes in, and then I got distracted. So I will pick that baton up. Thank you all for joining us. If you have been watching us talk about this show this whole time and you haven't seen Succession, what the fuck are you doing? Go and watch it. But yeah, pour one out, everybody. If you're you do what you can to revel in the joy when you have it, because tomorrow it's all gone and we're all pieces of shit. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it was good while it lasted, and yeah, it is totally worth. I mean, if you for some reason are watching this and haven't watched the show, just go watch it. And even if you've spoiled it for yourself entirely by this point, but
yeah, because Angie watched the finale with me, having never watched a single episode of it, and she was like, "I have no clue what's going on, but hey, it's exciting. There's lots of yelling and stuff." So yeah, she had no clue, no context, but she still was kind of interested. So yeah, maybe she is exactly that person, I guess. But I'll see you. I won't see you next weekend. Matt will be solo, but we will all reconvene together to review The Flash when it finally is released, to the general public. We've been hearing some good things about that movie. That's just kind of shocking, all things considered. But looking forward to that, and I'll see you on the other side.
Yep. See ya.
Take care.